So what if that little voice in your head, the thing you call you, could be rewritten? Today, we're going to dive into two radically different futures for the human self, both pulled from our source material. In one, technology is used to enforce absolute control, and in the other, well, it offers a voluntary leap into a totally new kind of consciousness. The real question is, which one is closer than we think?
But hey, before we get into all of that, let me just ask you something. How solid do you think your sense of self really is? You know, that feeling of being you? What if I told you it's way more fragile, more negotiable than you've ever imagined? Just keep that thought in your back pocket.
All right, so here's the deal. We are unpacking two possible futures where the very idea of you is essentially put on trial. In the first, the self is seen as a problem, something to be corrected by force. And in the other, it's treated as an illusion that you can voluntarily leave behind.
Let's kick things off with a darker vision, shall we? I want you to imagine a world where your individuality, your quirks, your opinions, your right to complain aren't just frowned upon, they're seen as bugs in the system, glitches that need to be patched right out of your brain.
So, welcome to the world of the Calcification protocol. This is a society where efficiency is God. And you know, what's the most efficient way to run a society? Make sure everyone thinks the right thoughts. And if they don't, well, you just forcibly rewrite their minds until they do. Imagine this just flashes up on your screen one day. No warning. Mandatory neural audit. That's it. For a woman named Dex Marlowe, seeing these three words means her life, everything she knows herself to be, is basically over. Yeah. This is the face of someone whose identity has just been scheduled for deletion.
So, what in the world is a neural audit? Well, the official story is that it's a therapeutic procedure. But let's be real. Its actual purpose is to surgically remove dissent. It targets anyone who questions the boss, complains about their job, or just doesn't quite fit the mold. Its job is not to fix you, it's to force you into compliance.
The people fighting against this system, well, they have a much more honest name for it. As you can see, they don't bother calling it therapy. They call it what it is: erasure. It is not about healing you. It's about literally deleting the parts of your personality that don't comply and leaving behind this smiling, productive, and completely hollow shell.
And this leaves Dex with a pretty grim choice. Option 1, submit to the audit and stop being herself. Option 2, try a completely insane, near-suicidal escape plan. The fact that running out into the deadly vacuum of space feels like the better option, well, that tells you everything you need to know about what's waiting for her in that room.
Okay, so Dex's future is about having her selfhood erased against her will. But what if the self could be dissolved voluntarily? We are now going to shift gears completely from a future of control to one of transcendence. Welcome to the world of membrane theory, where losing yourself isn't a punishment, it's the destination.
This one sense just flips everything we think about identity on its head. The ship had no name because there were no longer any outsiders. I mean, just think about that for a second. To name something, you have to be separate from it, right? There has to be an I looking at a that. Well, here, those boundaries are just gone.
And see, unlike Dex, who's being forced into this, Captain Yev Sarantine and her crew chose this path. For them, dissolving the individual self isn't a tragedy. It's the next step in our evolution, a voluntary, and from their perspective, a beautiful transformation. And what's wild is how real these changes are. I mean, look at this. A crewman named Torres used to talk with his mouth. Now he communicates through glowing patterns on his skin. Another crew member, Caro, isn't even in one body anymore. Her consciousness is spread out across 17 different biological points. And the ship? The ship isn't a machine they're flying. It's a living, conscious member of the crew, grown from the same stuff they are. They have literally become one entity.
So, how did this happen? Well, it wasn't some random accident. It was guided by this incredible cosmic intelligence they call the progenitors. And the secret this intelligence reveals, my God, it changes everything we think we know about reality itself.
This is the question, the big one, that Captain Yev asks the progenitors. It's maybe the biggest question there is. Why are we here? Why does the universe even bother having consciousness in the first place? And the answer is absolutely mind-bending. The progenitors basically say we've had it all backwards. We think we're these tiny, conscious specks living inside a big, dead universe? Nope. They say we are the universe, which is slowly, over billions of years,
waking up and learning to look at itself through us. Consciousness isn't a bug, it's the feature.
To prove their point, the progenitors ask us to just look a little closer at what we call a self. I mean, are you really a single thing? Or are you a walking, talking colony of trillions of cells and bacteria? Is your mind some stable entity, or just a flickering electrical pattern in a brain that's constantly rebuilding itself? Heck, even your memories, the very core of your identity, they get rewritten a little bit every single time you remember them.
And that leads to their ultimate challenge, not just to the crew, but to you, to me, to all of us. When you break it all down, where in all that mess is the solid, unchanging you that you are so terrified of losing? What if the thing you're clinging to so tightly was never really there to begin with?
Okay, so let's bring these two futures back into the same room. We have one world that wants to force the self into a tiny, compliant box, and another that encourages the self to dissolve into the cosmos. It's really a clash of two totally different ideas about what a self even is and what it's for.
This table really just lays it all out, doesn't it? The calcification protocol is all about external force, the system crushing the individual. Membrane theory is about internal choice, the individual deciding to evolve. In one, your uniqueness is a flaw that needs to be fixed. In the other, it's just an illusion you can choose to move beyond. Both paths lead away from the self we know, but one is an act of erasure, and the other an act of cosmic expansion.
And that really brings us to the heart of it all. Both of these futures involve losing the individual self. One frames this as the ultimate tragedy, right? An act of violence that you have to resist no matter the cost. The other presents it as the ultimate liberation, a way to finally escape the prison of being just one single separate person.
And so we're left with this final, really haunting thought from the progenitors. We spend our entire lives feeling separate, isolated, alone, a feeling we call individuality. But is losing that feeling, is that really a loss? Or could it be the end of a very particular, very human kind of suffering? That's the question these two futures leave us with.